All right. We are live. Whew. Sorry for the delay. We were having a small boomer moment. The technical difficulties are crazy. In case you are wondering who I am, my name is Antonio Bryce. I am the creator of the comic book series Brand. You can read the first 21 pages by checking the link in the description there. And also, you can type in akaripress.com. It'll take you right there. But I have another creator here making a return trip to the Akari Press channel, formerly of Samurais and Dinosaurs. Now he is back with a book called The Gods Fear Me. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Murphy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here, Antonio.
Howdy. All right. So let's get into it. Tell me about the new book.
Yeah, it's been going great so far. I think midnight tonight we'll be heading into week 3 of the campaign, and we're almost on track. We got about $700 to make up, and we'll be halfway funded. So, The Gods Fear Me is equal parts Lovecraft, cyberpunk, and adventure stories in the vein of The Rocketeer. It focuses on Kedzie, who's a one-armed android, and she's on a quest for vengeance the wastelands of Earth. This is about 200 years after the fall of man. She's searching for the alien god known as the Puppet King, who destroyed her arm. And during her journey, she crosses paths with a young boy named Brian, who might be the key to saving what's left of mankind. It's at this point that she has to decide between following her programming and chasing her thirst for vengeance. It comes in at 32 pages, and the base book is $15. There's 2 planned sequels for the near future, and we'd love to have everyone listening to come along with us for the ride.
All right, so I've got it pulled up here on my screen. You are at $2,276. 37% of goal. The goal is 6,000. Right. So let me actually get down here and take a look at some of the art and everything that you have posted up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is, I'm assuming this is going to be like the previous book in all black and white.
The base book is in black and white. If we hit 10,000, that's a stretch goal for full color.
Aha. Okay. I see you. Okay, going down here. Are you the artist on this as well, or just a writer? Or
no, I'm just the writer. So the artist is Kristen Rossi. He's from Argentina, and he's done a lot of work with Alterna. He drew Trespasser for them, and he's currently working on Voidwalker.
Okay. We love Alterna here.
Yeah, we do.
Right. And so, right, very interesting. Ourselves. Oh, okay. So I guess this is the other book you mentioned, Trespasser.
Yeah, it's I read it about 2 or 3 years ago now, and the second I finished it, I was like, I got to work with this guy.
All right, hold up. Now, see here, I see you got a trading card in the swag bag now. Features art by Ethan Van Sciver. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we do. So both Ethan and Carl O'Rowe were generous enough to agree to this. So basically, as things stand, the base swag bag comes with art featuring, by Kristen Rossi. But if we can hit 8,000, that art will be replaced by Ethan doing a trading card for us and Carl O'Rowe providing 2 postcards for us.
Okay. So let me see. So okay. So I see you got the Cyberfrog up here, but I'm assuming he's going to be doing your characters, or is it going to be something else?
Yeah.
So let me see. Okay. So I see you got some nice little stretch goals of. Oh, okay. So this is what it would look like in color. Who would be doing your colors if?
We're still deciding that. Basically, we're trying to manage Kristen's schedule as best we can, because besides Voidwalker, he's got some other stuff in the fire. I did the flats for these just to give people an idea of what the book could look like in color. So it's either going to be done in-house here at Chibi Comics, or if Kristen's schedule allows, we'll just have him color his own work.
Oh, so he can color as well.
Yeah. He did all the coloring for Trespasser and Voidwalker.
Ooh, nice. I got you. Let me. Okay. So let me pop back up to your stretch goals here.
Sure.
And let me see. Okay. So your featured perk, $40 here, is the swag bag. Okay, so tell me about that.
Sure. So the swag bag comes with the core book. It also comes with the prequel novella, which is done in the style of Lovecraftian, Penny Dreadful novels, pulp novels. And it'll have like spot illustrations throughout it. That'll be about 20 to 24 pages. And that is all the stuff leading up to basically page one. Like we're going from 200 years in the past to right up until the book starts. You'll get that stuff. You're also going to get a sticker. You're going to get the trading card, the 2 postcards, and you're also going to get a poster of the cover.
Okay, and then you got $10 for a digital copy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see some people have claimed that already.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we go down to your single physical copy for $15 whole. What's your shipping run like on that?
We're doing $10 domestic, $20 international.
Okay. Let's see. Get any extra swag with the with the single copy or no?
No, the single copy is just a single copy. We have a perk for the single copy and the novella, which I think is next.
Which, if my computer doesn't get all possessed.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. It was. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. You thought I was making a purchase. Okay, hold on. I was like, what is happening?
Right.
I guess I double clicked on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get it to go back, that would be super.
Come on, cooperate, computer.
And we can. The gods must fear me as well. That is. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. This is. Let's see. Can I leave site? Yes. Okay. Looks like we're coming. Yay! All right. So let me see. We're back. All right. So let me go down. All right. So physical and prequel novella for $25. Let me click on it and see. All right. So what all are you getting with this one?
So that's the book and the prequel novella that I mentioned earlier, which covers from 200 years in the past to right up till now.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is one of the only places where you actually have some color art. Let's see, the international exclusive. Okay, tell me about that one.
Yeah, so this came about after we launched. I ran out of black and white art. That's why I used the character design piece. Basically, I had a few international backers reach out to me and say, "Hey, could you do basically what your boy Zach offers, where like if you got a friend overseas and you want to split the cost of shipping, you can get 2 sets of the books with a slight reduction on the shipping." So yeah, that's for anyone that wants a copy of the book and the novella and an additional copy of the book and novella for a friend.
Oh, okay.
And instead of $40 for shipping, for 2 copies, it'll be $30.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you got the support the troops tier. A lot of people love those. $110. What do you get for that?
Yeah, so we just rolled this over from Samurai and Dinosaurs. It did really good for us, and we didn't see any reason not to do it again. Support the troops. 2 copies will go to you, and 2 copies will be sent to the U.S. military via Operation Paperback.
Oh, okay. Let me see. So How many you said that? So you ran that on the last one. How many copies did you end up sending to our men and women in uniform?
I think our orders came in around between 5 and 8, so that would be like between 30 and 45 copies.
Okay. Hey man, anybody reach out to you and tell you they read the book or anything? No.
Oh, well, okay. So we did digital fulfillment on Samurai, and we're doing pre-press on the physical right now. The physical copies are going out at the end of October.
Oh, the other campaign, but it's not still open though, right? So
No, we closed it down about 2 months ago now.
okay. So let's see here. So you got tier 4 shop owners and collectors. It is 180. Let's see what you get with that. It looks like 10 physical copies, and someone has snatched one of those bad boys up. I see.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. Had a couple of shop owners and collectors reach out and say, "Hey, other campaigns are going for it, so there's no reason not to." And yeah, like the first night we had someone take us up on it.
Awesome. Okay. So let me see here. Get drawn into the Gods Fear Me, $250. And what else comes with that?
So you'll get a copy of the book, and you'll also have your likeness non-recurring role drawn into the Gods Fear Me. So a few people have asked, and basically 70% of the human race has been decimated at this point in time, and the remaining 30% have been placed into cryogenic slumber, and they're housed in these areas called sleeper cities, of which Kedzie will be traveling through a good 2 or 3 of them over the course of the story. So more likely than not, your likeness will be one of those people in cold sleep.
Okay. That's why you said non-reoccurring.
Right.
All right. Page 1, original art for $350. Okay, so is this book being done traditionally?
Yeah, Kristen does all of his work by hand.
I do love that.
Yeah.
Much as I love Kanan's art, I just there's something about traditional that just appeals to me on a that's I don't know, it gets to me. So
I'm right there with you.
All right. So page 2, original art. And yeah, so 350. So and I'm assuming these all come with a book as well.
Yeah. So I'll be shipping the book from America, and Kristen will be shipping the pages from Argentina.
Okay, so yeah, the third one, yes, we've got page 3 is for sale as well. So if someone is out there collecting, they can snatch up one or all 3 of these pages if you are feeling so kind. All right, so let me get back into it. And all right, so what brings this idea? What sparked the seed?
Well, it really comes from like 2 or 3 different sources. The primary one was Prometheus, of all things. When I watched it, I didn't like it, and I was sitting there dissecting what I thought did work in the movie, and I really liked. Everybody likes Michael Fassbender.
I do. I definitely do.
Yep. And I really liked the kind of primordial giant face hugger thing that the engineer went up against at the end. And like I was sitting there and I was like, I don't understand why this movie isn't just 2 hours of androids beating the piss out of these things. And I was like, well, okay, that sounds like a book. The second source was I was watching an old documentary on Daredevil, and Frank Miller was talking about why he loves the character, and he was saying that he loves that Daredevil is the only character defined by what he can't do. And
Interesting.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
So that kind of stuck with me, and I started thinking about characters with physical limitations, and that was around the time that I was developing the Gods Fear Me, and so the idea of this android who could very easily just have the arm replaced. She's an android. It's no thing, but chooses not to. That's where a lot of the story and character stuff started spilling out from. And then, last but not least, like I've had a lifelong obsession with the Rocketeer and jetpacks, and I finally wanted to get around to my own personal jetpack hero.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. So you had Samurai and Dinosaurs, and obviously you got fully funded, which
Mhm.
was, hey, that's always a plus. Um,
Yes.
so let me see. So you say you have more than one issue of this, and I meant to ask you about Samurai and Dinosaurs. Are you doing more of that or no?
There's a chance that we might be able to do more of it. It would be with a new artist, but that artist is really booked up for the time being, so it's just kind of a waiting game right now.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. And yeah, as far as this is planned as 3 installments, so hopefully we get to tell those remaining two.
I hope so. Well, like I said, it looks like you're on track. Just gotta keep hustling, which it appears that you are doing. So
Hustling hard, man.
that's what that's what it is. So, all right. So, what else are you working on, sir?
There's there's a big there's a big superhero thing I'm working on that should be out sometime next year, and we're in the very early planning stages for the Gods Fear Me 2. But right now that's about it, man. It's just that, and my regular freelance work, which little by little over the next year or two, I'm hoping I can cut back on.
Freelance work. Gotta love it.
Oh, well, sometimes,
Yeah. Well,
sometimes.
indeed. And okay. So, what else do you? Okay. So you mentioned Frank Miller, the Daredevil thing. Were you actually a Daredevil fan? Because I'm a big Daredevil fan. What kind of comics were you into?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a big Daredevil fan. As a matter of fact, like I'm generally more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy, and
Uh,
like my core three at Marvel are Daredevil, Blade, and Captain America.
check, check, and check. Okay,
Yeah,
like all
right.
three of those. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely like all three
So
of those.
yeah, like I was raised a DC kid. Like the first thing I ever drew was Superman on this giant chalkboard that my mom bought me. And yeah, like one of my first comics was Sword of the Atom by Gil Kane.
Love Gil Kane. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was such like it that's one of those concepts I wish they would bring back, like the idea that the atom gets stuck in the microscopic world, and it just kind of becomes this like superhero Conan epic, like he's riding a frog like a horse, and he's made this makeshift sword, and he's got the pelt loincloth thing going. That stuff was so good.
I'm trying to think. The Atom was out before Ant Man, wasn't it? Because I know they tend to do a lot of the same things, but pretty sure the
Yeah,
Atom existed first.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you start thinking about okay, like when Captain America came out, or the Submariner, some of those, a lot of those quote unquote World War II characters. So I was
Exactly.
like, I'm pretty sure, or there was, I'm pretty sure, I thought there was a Golden Age Atom. I don't know exactly how. It's like Sandman. There's been like, there was like a Golden Age Sandman, and then there was like a middle, and then obviously like Neil Gaiman came and did his little thing, So
Right.
yeah, so I'm always curious, or another character like the Spectre, or even what's it, Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, and then they
Yep.
had to, you know, go in and change
Weak
it.
to wood.
Yeah, yeah. The magical lantern. That's actually a strange thing. I don't know. I know they've tried to retcon some of that and kind of and then they went back and they said, oh well, the other lanterns recognize him as a lantern, even though he's not really a lantern.
Yeah, I remember they did a lot of that in Jeff Johns' Justice Society run, but it's been so long since I read that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know, but I've read a few of the because they were reprinting I think it's like All Star Monthly or something. They were reprinting a lot of those old comics from like the 40s, whatever. And I would read the old Green Lantern. He's got the little with the kind of red and yellow cape, and he's got the little symbol on his chest, and and he's just. I always thought the concept for the Green Lantern's always appealed to me, though. I've always enjoyed that character. So
yeah. No, I really enjoy the Green Lantern, like all iterations of him. But like when you talk about Alan Scott, like the whole wood thing, even as a kid, was a sticking point for me because I'm like, well, don't go near any forests, man, because you're dead.
Well, it's like when they did Hal, though, and then they were like, the color yellow.
Right.
It was that kind of thing. So which, like I said, I'm glad. Now, Jeff was really smart. That's one thing I really enjoyed Green Lantern Rebirth. Jeff was really smart with kind of tweaking that out of it. Because, well, they actually, I remember when Kyle Rayner came and he was the only Green Lantern, they were like, oh, the yellow impurity doesn't exist, but they never really went into it.
Right.
Like, oh, he's the only lantern and he's got the yellow impurity doesn't exist. And then they obviously Hal came back and then they had to explain the parallax thing. And that makes more sense to me because you can't go for like 40 years talking about yellow impurity and then be like, oh no, yellow impurity doesn't exist.
Yeah, it was just one of the many things that Ron Mars was like, no, I don't care. And it's like, well, dude, just because you don't care doesn't mean it doesn't exist in the continuity.
Well, I didn't disagree with him. He did some interviews where he was talking about, he always thought the yellow impurity was stupid.
Right.
So I get that.
Sure.
But his attitude and I don't know. I didn't really like Kyle that much, except when like Jeff made me start liking Kyle. I didn't really like Kyle. It was Hal and Barry. It was like hey, Hal Jordan, Barry Allen. Those were my guy. Ollie Queen.
Right.
All the old school. It's like. Man, even though when you think about it, Hal Jordan's not the original Green Lantern, and Barry Allen is not the original Flash. So,
yeah, Kyle's interesting because like I was just like becoming a teenager when they rolled him out, so I was just old enough to realize that they were trying to make him appeal to me, but I had grown up with Hal, so I was like, no, it's always been Hal. Like that's the answer. But I did like the idea of a comic artist as a Green Lantern and the amount of creativity he could bring to the ring. I thought
that was a good idea. It's just that I don't know. I've read enough of Ron's stuff. He's a writer, but it doesn't. His stuff doesn't really grab me, and I mean that's something I can't say for writers like Mark Waid, especially like the early Mark Waid. I used to love his stuff. He was like when he was writing Flash, and he really, he broke down the Speed Force and all of it. I mean, he did stuff on the Flash that that they're still using on like the Flash television show and stuff like that. So he did a really good job on some of that. Now. That's not to say he hasn't lost his way, but
yeah,
I definitely thought he put his. It's like he put his stamp on the Flash. I feel like Frank Miller put his stamp on Daredevil.
Yeah. Like, so my favorite stuff with Kyle was what Morrison did with him in JLA and DC
Mm,
1 million, and a mini series that not a lot of people remember, which I think was written by Chuck Dixon, called The New Core,
I did not read that.
which that was all about Kyle trying to build up a new core.
I'll have to look that up on Amazon. I like Chuck Dixon.
Yeah, like I remember really enjoying that stuff. But as far as Wade and the Flash goes, like I remember as a kid, he did it was when they were trying to introduce, what was his name? He was all gold. I think his name was like Wave Rider or something.
Oh, I thought you know because I remember I've got like what was it? It was one character, the Godspeed character, which they ended up using, um, which they ended up using on the TV show. I've got the
Right.
first appearance of Godspeed. I remember. Well, I was reading all that. So when Wade, because they used to write Mark Wade up in Wizard all the time. He was
Yep.
always like top 10 writers and stuff. You know, especially when Kingdom Come came out. When he wrote Kingdom Come, it was always him. You always see his name. You always saw Alex Ross's name in the artist. And that's when I first started seeing Ethan Van Sciver. I started seeing Ethan Van Sciver because I had bought a copy of Cyberfrog
Right.
From Harris Comics I'd ordered it through a mail order catalog, and he was doing the Cyberfrog thing, and I got that one and some Creed stuff. Trent Kanuga, I had bought that, which I know I saw they did a Cyberfrog Creed crossover, and I was like, which I actually want to collect that. I want to
Sure.
actually check that out because I thought Creed was cool, and I see Trent Kanuga he's a YouTuber now. He's got like over 100 something thousand YouTube subscribers, just like Ethan. But I thought Creed was always one of those things when they had the pricing guide in the back of Wizard, and Creed, like those, they be in third or fourth printings and stuff. Those books, like if you could get the first issue of Creed and it was first edition, you'd be looking at $200-$300. I always loved those, and if certain things were hot, like if it was hot, they would highlight it to let you like, hey, this people are looking for this. This is like first appearance, or it's really rare, or something like that. Or I remember when Michael Turner died. And a lot of his covers were like going crazy in the Wizard mag. I was like, they had like black and white, but they seemed like, I don't know if Marvel was milking it, but they seemed to, all of a sudden there was a black and white version of this, and it's like, hey, it's a Michael Turner variant, but it's black and white. And I was just like, are they milking his death? I don't know, but
a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, they said, like, hey, we've got a Michael Turner variant. And I was like, okay, but I loved Michael Turner. That was one of my favorites, when he was at Top Cow and doing, what was it, Witchblade stuff. So
yeah.
I thought Michael Turner was dope, man.
Yeah, man. Like Michael Turner was a weird one because like I don't know, like at least in Chicago, in some of the like comic fan circles I was in at that point, like there was a lot of trash talk about him and his style. Like this one dude couldn't stand, he just felt that he drew the same woman over and over again and just changed the hair. And
it's like shit about like Silvestri and Rob Liefeld only draws one way. They're like, yeah, it's the same shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, but well, I mean, maybe to a degree, but like it's part of like the aesthetic that he's built up for himself. And I don't know, like I think like even if you couldn't like stand his work, like he just came across as like the coolest, most down to earth dude. Like he was just happy to be there. And yeah, man, like I loved that era of comics so much. I know people like to talk trash about the 90s, but I've heard Ethan go on about how much he enjoyed Wizard, and I did too, man. Like what I loved about Wizard was like right before and right after the Image boom, there was like you could go to the back of Wizard or the back of Hero Illustrated, and there were all those like little almost classified ads for these indie books that you could order, like Arachnid. And
That was one. Yeah, I've got that array. What was it? Because I know. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to have Kelsey Shannon on. We're supposed to schedule that. But he actually worked on it, like whatever Arachnus, or whatever the hell that book's called. I've got like a couple of issues, 2 or 3 issues of Arachnus, and I think I've got the 0 issue because he said that was like the first work he ever got in comics.
That's crazy.
And I don't know what the two brothers that drew that book.
Right.
Arachnus. They I don't know if I'm assuming they continue drawing something, but maybe they're at Image or something. I don't know. I'm sure they're doing something, but man, that was so long ago. But I ordered that was again, I ordered that through American Entertainment, the mail order catalog. Like I ordered Cyberfrog, I ordered Arachnus, I ordered I remember when they did Gen 13 #1 and they had 13 different variant covers.
Yep.
And you could go through the catalog, and I picked out 4 of them. The 4 that I like the most. But they've got a box set. I've seen, and what's so funny is I go on eBay sometimes, so I was like, I always regret that I didn't get all the other, but I was broke, I just used the money I could get. And the cover was costing like 20 something bucks. So I was like, okay. So I picked there's one that was a parody of the Janet Jackson Rolling Stone cover where she's got her hands up and the guy is cuffing her breasts behind her.
Right.
And so they did that with what's that, Caitlin Fairchild, and I think it was Grunge and so I've got that one. And then they did another one that was a Frank Frazetta where it was Grunge, is like, he's on like a horseback or whatever with the armor. It was kind of like, it was like a Frank Frazetta style cover. And then there was another one that was the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man #1 with Grunge, except it was like a hairspray or whatever was the webbing.
Okay.
And they did that. So they did that one. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, there was a Pulp Fiction parody cover, and I got that one. And then I think there was just one that was like more like an action regular cover from J. Scott Campbell. And I was like, but there was so many of them. But there on eBay, I saw the guy was selling. They had like these limited edition box sets with all the Gen 13 covers, and you could get it. And I mean, it's so cheap now because I've looked and tried to find some of those covers, and I look and they're just like $3 or $4. And I was like, man, they were selling for like $20-something.
I gave them my money.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that those would retain some value, but they apparently have not. So, and I spent it's like I spent so much, especially on Image books. I was going through my long boxes and I found there was a little like mini series. It was Grifter and She, and that was a big shout out to Billy Tucci. She, I just sent out my backer update, and one of the announcements was that we were going to have a She cover on for the next book. So there's going to be Dawn and She on the cover. So, but there was I've got Grifter She, and I've got Psyblade She. Oh wow. Yeah, it was like, well, I was buying that Crusade comics. I was buying all that stuff. I was getting anything. Yeah, I was like, anything I could get my hands on. I was digging a lot of that, the Bad Girls era, because that was another thing I used to see in Wizard all the time. It's like the Bad Girls. Then everybody, so that's when you start seeing Rob Liefeld came out with Maximum Press, and he had this character Evangeline.
Right.
Yeah, I had her. I'm pretty sure I've got her first appearance still in there. So I've got Evangeline.
What was her name? Lady Rawhide.
Yeah. I couldn't track her first appearance down. I've got like her second appearance, and it was like I was trying because like I was looking in the Wizard pricing guide, and like first appearance of Lady Rawhide, and all of a sudden that shit had shot up to like $50, $60. I was like, damn. But now you can look on eBay and you can get that shit for like $7. It's not that big because I don't even think they use that character anymore. I think all that stuff's over it was at Tops when I bought it, but now it's like Dynamite or whatever. So I don't know. So did I lose you? Uh-oh. Did I lose Mike? Uh-oh. Well, let me talk to you guys. Hello. I see, let me see, Brian Christow. If I can talk, Brian Chrisgow in the chat. Six Gun Gorilla. Still don't have. Okay. Well, I'm sure Mike will be back with us shortly. Or is it me? Can you guys hear me?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay, I was like, oh man, I was like, what happened? I was like, oh no. But I'm trying to.
I know. No, you just totally froze for a second.
I froze?
Uh-oh.
Oh no. That's not good. Wait a minute. I can hear you.
I don't know. Maybe
because I was still moving. That's why I was saying,
good.
I was like, when you look on the black screen here, like when it freezes, a lot of times the camera, like I'll be moving and it'll be like this. And I'll be like, uh-oh. But I was still I was still moving, and then I was like, hello, are you still with me? I think we're alone now. But
yeah,
anyway,
a little bit after a little bit after the Lady Rawhide stuff is when my computer just decided to explode.
Yeah, but like I said, I was buying. Like, see, I know Topps Comics had the Lone Ranger, they had Zorro, and they did Lady Rawhide, and then they spun because there was a Lady Rawhide miniseries, and I bought that. And trying to remember, I was reading She, and they spun She off into they had a miniseries. It was this villain or anti-hero character for She. I think her name was Tao, something like that. She was.
I remember Tao. Yeah.
Yeah, she was supposed to be. Man, I can't wait because I'm supposed to have Billy Tucci on when they launched the new She. I got so many questions for Billy because I was buying that stuff left and right. So, but yeah, Tao, and I'm positive I've still got her first appearance because I was getting, it was like, hey, this is gonna be the first appearance. A lot of times you get these magazines and the mail order stuff, and they'd be like, hey, you better make sure you get in. This is gonna be a hot character. This is gonna be her first appearance, and I would make sure that I got it. But yeah, Tao, I remember she was supposed to be like the antagonist for She, and then they ended up, it was kind of a trick. Her and She fought, but then she was like, they spun her off into her own series, which I get you, doing like little mini series with her and stuff. They was like, you just tricked me to get my money. That's what that was. But also, I'm trying to think of the rest of the bad girls. So, okay, Lady Death, you had She,
of course, and then you kind of had like they branched out into the whole like good girl thing. Like you had Warrior Nun Aurelia or something like that.
I remember that character. There was supposed to be a movie about that. There was supposed to be like an anime or something. And I don't know if they've ever done anything with that property. It just like you'd hear. There was also, what was it? Joseph Michael Linsner. He had the goddess character Dawn.
Yeah, he had Dawn.
Yeah, he had her. I'm trying to think. There was that bad girl. But like I said, I remember because you had Lady Death, and then you had Evil Ernie with that, which it's kind of strange that Brian Pulido owns Lady Death, but he doesn't own Evil Ernie anymore.
It's really weird, man. Like, man, you just made me remember what was I had it. No, before he had to give her to Marvel, McFarlane had what's her name?
Yeah, that was the lawsuit. Neil Gaiman eventually.
Angela, yes,
yeah. And well, he could have kept. That's what's so funny. If he had just kept his word, that's a strange thing when you read about that. Apparently, him and Neil Gaiman had an agreement, but they didn't have a contract. It was just like a verbal. Although there were some faxes sent because Neil had really good lawyers. That's
yeah.
I know. So Neil kept he kept all his documentation because Tom was like, "Hey, we never had a contract." Whatever, and they went into the court, and all of a sudden Neil's got, he's got, hey, this is a fax that he sent on this date, and I talked to him here, and we had agreed to this, and this fax was said. And I was like, man, that's when you know it's old stuff, because everybody wasn't shooting at each other emails back then. It was all facsimile. So it's
Right.
like a lot of the evidence that Neil Gaiman had against Todd McFarlane was faxes. And so they get into court, and Todd is obviously saying, hey, I'm innocent, and this guy, I own all the characters. Anything that ever is published in Spawn Comics is owned by me outright. And Neil was just a work for hire situation. And obviously Neil was able to show evidence that it was a little bit more complicated than that he was supposed to own 50% of the character. And, he could, Todd could use the character, but he was supposed to, get cut in on it or whatever. And then Todd, there were two different companies I remember that owned pieces of Mr. Miracle, which was just basically Captain Marvel. Mr. Miracle over in Britain, and Neil Gaiman wrote Mr. Miracle over there, and Alan Moore wrote Mr. Miracle over there in the UK. But there was, what was it, like Eclipse, and then there was another company that owned, but it was like, I own the rights in this country, and this other company owned the rights in the US or something. And somehow Todd got he bought one set of rights, and then Neil thought he had rights, and then they were like, well, you only have like the European rights or something, and Todd owns the rest of the rights. And so he reached out to Todd. He thought they had a pretty good relationship, and he was like, well, Todd, why don't you let me get the Mr. Miracle rights, and I'll let you get Angela outright. You can have her, because I don't have any plans to do anything with her. And Todd was like, at first they apparently Todd agreed to that, and then he kind of backtracked on it because he realized he didn't actually have a written contract with Neil, so he thought he could screw him. I'm sure Todd will tell it a different way. I would love to hear what Todd's version of that was, but this is just everything that got reported. Yeah, because like I said, everything that got reported, especially in the interviews with Neil, and I love Todd. You got to understand, I worship Todd McFarlane. It seemed like Neil was telling the truth on everything he said, and the courts obviously found in Neil's favor. But Todd seemed to believe that he could do whatever. He could keep Angela outright and not give Neil the rest of the rights to Mr. Miracle so that he could write these books or whatever. And, then obviously Neil filed a lawsuit, and then, Todd filed a counter lawsuit. They were going back and forth, and it seemed like everything and at that same time, Todd McFarlane got another lawsuit filed against him by Tony Twist, the NHL hockey player.
Yes, I remember that too.
Because he had named the gangster in the Spawn comic, which I think now when they reprint it, they can't use that name or something. I think they had to go in and change it or something. But that dude beat Todd, and they had to pay him like, it was like $4 million in damages, I remember. So it was Tony Twistorelli or whatever. And I was just like, okay, Todd, if you use the dude's name, you gotta have it from me. I know that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And so I just that was odd. So either way, he had the Tony Twistorelli, Tony Twist, the gangster from Spawn Comics, and like I said, the guy filed the lawsuit, and Neil had his lawsuit, and Todd lost both of those lawsuits. I thought Todd was going bankrupt for a while there. I honestly did.
Yeah.
And then
things got real quiet for a while.
Yeah, it did. Next thing I know, it was the Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa home run race.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they started selling the home run balls, and you were hearing that Todd McFarlane was buying these home run baseballs. And he spent like 1.4 or 1.5. It was like spent a couple $1 million on there. Because because I know he bought the Mark McGuire ball, and I thought he bought the Sammy Sosa one as well. But you know, and then he loaned them out to the Hall of Fame. They had like some kind of traveling exhibit or something. He loaned the balls out. But he said that was just he just did that so that he was wanting to buy part of an NHL team at that time, and they weren't taking him. Oh, that's the comics guy. And then all of a sudden he showed he had some real money, and he said once I bought those balls, he said they started the energy changed. They started treating me with respect. They saw I had money,
right.
And so at that point, because I'm trying to think was it the Expos or not the. I'm trying to think because whatever the team, or it might have been the Nordics, they moved to the U.S. The team ended up he doesn't own because he sold his shares or whatever, but he owned like about a fourth of a hockey team for a few years there, and he sold it. Then they moved to the U.S. and won the Stanley Cup, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of strange. But yeah, Todd, I love Todd, but Todd has done a lot of those image guys have done some really kind of shady business practices, like some of the stuff with Rob Liefeld. I've told that story a few times that some of the image guys said that when they decided they did not want to have Rob Liefeld as part of the image company anymore, and they were getting ready to boot him out, he pulled a surprise on them and let them know. He was like, hey, I still own the image name and the logo is trademarked to my company. I filed because the image logo was actually designed by Rob Liefeld. He had created it as he was creating a company to put his posters out. He wanted to sell like posters and stuff that wasn't ran through Marvel. And so he wanted to imprint to do that with. So that's where he created Image from. And then when they all left and formed Image, he was like, hey, I've got this logo and everything. We can just call the company Image. And everyone's like, yeah. And then so obviously
let's do that.
Yeah, but they never had any formal paperwork. That was odd to me when I heard that. I didn't realize they had paperwork on other things, but they never had an agreement that said that everybody owned the logo equally. So Rob had that imprint on it, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually did have to put out a comic or something. Some of the publishers put out Image comics, and they didn't have that logo on there. It was
for a while, yeah.
It was strange, but they obviously got it worked out. But but that shows you right there. Rob is on some other stuff because he was like, oh, you guys don't want me in the company anymore. Well, I own the logo. I own the name.
See, man, I'm telling you, like this whole, like I've said this on a few other streams, but like my obsession, like there are some dudes as they head towards 40 where they become obsessed with like World War II. My obsession is documentaries on the comic book industry. Like all this stuff is just so fascinating to me because like every single thing that everyone has done has influenced and led up to like everything that like we're doing now and where the mainstream industry is at. Like I'm so fascinated by like these people who either have amazing business sense or absolutely terrible business sense and how that affected everything else.
It's like I love let me see, I don't know if you've seen Todd McFarlane, The Devil You Know.
Yep.
That's a great documentary. And then they did the History of Image Comics that was just on what was it? Robert Kirkman had the Secret History of Comics show that was on AMC, and they did.
Yeah, and that was a whole episode.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Also recommend the one they did on Milestone Comics. I thought
right.
Yeah, Milestone Comics for me, and they had some like archival footage of Dwayne McDuffie and stuff like. That was for me. I don't know. But that one. There's a couple of really good things on YouTube. There was one called The Search for Steve Ditko, which actually aired on like British television. It was someone just ripped it off TV.
That was by what was his name? Rossi or something?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because it was great, and it had Stan Lee in there for a brief. That was another one they did. They did on the Secret History of Comics. They did Stan Lee versus Jack Kirby, and they aired part of this phone call Jack Kirby was like a guest on a radio station. I think it was a college radio station, and somehow
I remember that.
And I think some of the clip is online, but they got Stan Lee to call in, and him and Jack were not on the best of terms at that particular time.
And, hell no, they weren't. It was icy.
Yeah, it definitely got a little spicy because Jack and here's the thing: there's people that love Jack that kind of agree with some of this because even Kevin Smith was like, Jack Kirby had a great set. He had a mind for ideas, but he wasn't a good writer. A lot of the New God stuff he written, it was like he should have had someone, that was a more polished writer to help polish those ideas. So hearing him talk to Stan, he was like, Silver Surfer was my idea, and I had this and I had that, and he's like, everything that you did, that was all my stuff. And he said you can look on the pages, and it all had my notes. And Stan was like, yeah, it had your notes, but I didn't use any of that stuff. It was awful. And it was so strange to hear Stan say that. He said that stuff was awful. He said, yeah, you put little notes on there. He said, I didn't use any of your ideas. You had terrible ideas. And I was like, oh my God. But yeah, he had the Silver Surfer idea was definitely a great idea from Jack Kirby because that wasn't in the script. And then he comes up, and Stan goes, I get the pages back and I see this guy in shorts on the surfboard flying through space. And he said, I called Jack up and I'm like, hey, what is this? What is this guy here? And he was like, well, I just figured this big guy, Galactus, he's hungry and the space is big. So I figured he would need like a scout or somebody to go ahead and find the planets for him, to look for planets for him to eat. So, he would send this guy ahead and, the guy would find a planet for him and then he'd come back. And Stan was like, you know what? That's a great idea. We're going to call him the Silver Surfer. And it was like, Stan always liked that alliteration with the names and everything. Cause it's the same thing. Him and Steve Ditko fell out. Stan be falling out with everybody, but Stan liked to take credit. God rest Stan Lee, God bless the dead and all that. But Stan would take credit for every damn thing. And, he got a lot of credit. There's people that think Stan Lee invented Captain America. That's funny to me when I hear stuff like that. It's like they think Stan Lee created Captain America, and that's Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. But like I said, Stan gets credit for everything.
Right.
But it was when Steve Ditko left Spider-Man and they brought John Romita Sr. in, and he started doing some other stuff. But he wanted to do his own book kind of away from Stan, and he came up with Doctor Strange. He came up with the character, but they were going to call him Mr. something. They were going to call him Professor Strange or something. They had all these different names. Right. And then somehow they were going to, like, so I think the thing I read, they were going to call him Professor Strange. They actually had some notes on this that survived. There was a person that interviewed Steve Ditko, and they had some notes. Apparently, there was some kind of comic book historian. That guy had done a lot of research in the 60s and 70s, and he had very thorough notes of what. But Steve, like I said, Steve had a great design and all that kind of stuff, but he didn't have the right name. Yeah, and Stan, like I said, Stan's always coming up with those snappy names and coming up with different ideas. He had like nice ideas that worked. It was really funny when I got to talk to Steve Englehart because he was coming into Marvel right maybe about 6 months before Stan was about to go out to Hollywood and start trying to sell the Hulk to television and Captain America to television and all, and do all the, trying to build Hollywood Marvel up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he said, I came in and he said, I met Stan And what was this thing? He said Stan was on Fantastic Four, and I think he ended up passing it off to Roger Stern, but Stan was still writing these last few issues or whatever, and he had talked to Steve. He was like, "Hey, I'm kind of at wit's end here on what to do with the Fantastic Four. What should I do with it?" And then he said he gave him an idea, and then Stan was like, "Oh, that's great." And then he went away and he didn't use his idea. He used some. I'm trying to remember. I think he told it. I don't know. The story's on my channel, but he came up with something, and then he talked about when he ended up taking over the Captain America comic, and how Stan had kind of got the little stale with his thing where he just kept bringing Bucky back. Oh, it's a ghost of Bucky. It's this and all this, So it's the whole thing. I don't know. I love talking to Steve Englehart, and it's nice every now and then drop him an email, and he's still so nice to me. So
yeah.
Let me see. Comic Book Bob says, thing was Kirby didn't want to be the face of Marvel. Kirby was okay with Stan being the face so he could focus on drawing. The problem was Stan became the only person they ever gave. And that's true. There's a lot of people to this day that still don't really know who Jack Kirby is.
Oh, well, totally, man. I mean, I think largely because of the Marvel films over the past 10 years, there's an entire generation of, teenagers and 20-somethings now that know Stan Lee's face. But I mean, you ask them to name any other creator, let alone a Ditko or a Kirby, and I guarantee you they have no clue who they are.
Yeah, they definitely don't know. They don't know Joe Simon. They don't know Steve Ditko. They don't know Jack Kirby. It's like, and I'm like, they made a lot of money off Captain America. You would think, but they, it's I don't know. It's kind of sad because the first Captain America movie that came out, Joe Simon was still alive, although he was rather, he was quite elderly and infirmed at that time. They did manage to get him to do an interview because I've got the DVD, and he actually did do an interview for the DVD, which I thought was cool. And then his grandchildren went to the premiere, the Captain America, the first Avenger premiere. So it was cool that at least the grandchildren got to go, and that they, his name definitely appears in the, Captain America created by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. It said that, but then, who makes the cameo in the movie?
Of course.
So, but
Stan's going to get his 40 seconds.
Yeah, Stan's going to get it. And I mean, Stan, and I was like, man, and like I said, Jack, Joe Simon was actually still alive with the first one. That would have been nice to have Joe Simon in the movie, but like I said, at that he was so old he couldn't even make it to the premiere. They actually did a special premiere in New York, and his grandchildren came, and he wasn't able to. He was still alive, and he was, he just sent his emissaries. So it was, I just, that would have been nice if he could have got in the movie, though. That would have been nice, because like I said, it was him and Jack Kirby created Captain America. There's a lot of people that think Stan Lee created Captain America. So,
right. They even managed to get, in Winter Soldier, they even managed to get Brubaker in there.
Yeah. Well, Brubaker, that's the thing. Yeah, they did do that, but you get he did write that story or whatever. So.
I mean, he did, but I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. You can in the first Avenger get Joe Simon just sitting as a general behind a desk or something.
Yeah, I don't, man. That's the thing. I was on a commercial set when I was 17 years old. I was working for Hardee's, and they were shooting a commercial there, and the country singer Randy Travis was the star of the commercial. So I actually got to meet him, and I've got a picture with Randy Travis from 25 years ago.
Okay,
but yeah, like I said, I was 18 or whatever. So he came to the restaurant. We had to be there at 5:00 in the morning. We were still there on the set, and my job, they brought me in to work. I was only making $4.85 an hour, and but that was good money back then. I was like, yeah, I make $4.85 because minimum wage was only $3.65. And
Oh,
they were
wow.
paying me $4.85, and I got
Mhm.
my job that day was when we had been telling the customers that the store was going to be closed that day, but nobody listens. And then they pull in. We had like the pine cones and stuff. Like, hey, you can't come in today. The building's closed. So they would pull in, and we had a way to route them around the drive-through and everything. Because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had blinders up and stuff so that the light, so that we wouldn't see the outside cars when, I went in there and when I'd go in the building. And but we had coffee, we had hot coffee and cookies. And that's what we would pass out to the customers when they would pull in trying to order something. It's like, sorry, we're closed today. And they were like, what do you mean we're closed? And I was like, would you like a free cookie? You come back tomorrow, we'll be open. But they had a couple of models there that were pretending to be the cashiers. And
Right.
those girls were getting like $300 something a day. And Randy, they had a stand-in for Randy, and it was
Mhm.
funny because at that time Randy had like a nice little he had like a mullet, he had like a perm. It was it was strange. And so the model, he had they had to make him dress up. He had the exact same outfit as Randy and everything. And Randy's actually kind of short. He's not that tall,
Okay.
and it was strange. So he came, but they shot that thing from like 5 a.m. till like 7 p.m. They were shooting.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
It was crazy, but I really, I really, really dug that, man. It's like I thought it was cool. Not to mention they had catering on the set, so they had hired a food truck to come in,
Oh,
and
good.
yeah, it was
Oh,
cool. And the guy running the food truck was like, hey, you want something? I was like, can I have? He said, hey, they didn't pay for all this shit if you want it. And I mean, man, I pulled my bag. He said, take whatever you want, man. They paid for
yep.
everything. And I'm
Yep.
telling you, they had full-size candy bars and drinks and everything. I'm dumping this shit in my bag.
Man, do you remember a show? It was on NBC. It just ended like 2 or 3 years ago. It was called Grimm.
Yes.
Okay. I did stand in and extra work across like 2 or 3 seasons of that for that show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I was in the pilot, like I was the stand-in for the monster thing that first attacks him outside his house. And yeah, like I did a bunch of extra and stand-in work. But anyway, man, that food truck like craft service stuff is so good. Like
Yeah, I'll
it
tell you, he had a nice big old truck. It's like, he had everything. He's like, hey, you want anything? And it was weird. Even after he told me I could have it, it was like I was stealing. It's like, he said, I'm serious. Take what you want, man. Want some chips? He was like, yeah. He said, you want soda? He was like, he's just giving me whatever I want, man.
yep.
I was like, oh, he's got Baby Ruth. Oh, big old Snicker. And everything was like king size. It was like big old thing of like M&Ms. He's got the regular M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. He's got the other. I was like, really? I was like, can I get a Sprite? Yeah, man. You want another one? Hey, here. Got Dr. Pepper. Hey, you want that? I was just giving me all this stuff. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you sure this? He said, they've paid. He said, you can take whatever you want. They paid. He said, basically what happens is they buy all my inventory on the truck.
Right.
And he said, whatever I don't sell, I just restock it. And then I sell it to the next person.
Yeah, it was the same way. There was this nice old woman who was running the craft service truck, and like I remember one of the days that I was there, I showed up at like 10 a.m. and I was so bummed because I had just gotten some rejection letter, and like I felt like crap. And she sees me and she's like, hey Mike, how you doing? You want a muffin? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, here, take a dozen. I'm like, what are you doing, lady?
Yeah, man. I mean, he had everything. I'm telling you, that thing was loaded. He had sandwiches, every damn thing. And I was just like, I was like, man, I would love to work in the movies if this is how it is, man.
Right.
But he also, they had the wardrobe thing set up, and they had a bunch of like, I had my Hardee's uniforms, and they had like a bunch of like replacement Hardee's uniforms in different sizes and stuff. I was like, it was really cool, man, to see how they operate. And I mean, there was like a big old trailer with all the different equipment, the lights, all that. Because I went in, they had to get in there early, and they were like, bloop, bloop, bloop. I mean, they had got there like midnight that night. The manager had to come in, and they had gotten there like at midnight that night, and she had to open the doors up, and then they went in there and they rigged all the lights. They put the blinders up so the lights could hit and all this. And I was like, I'd come in. Oh, and we had to, I had to take Randy his breakfast. So they gave me his breakfast, and he didn't want biscuits. They got really upset that we had biscuits, and I was like, country breakfast. That's what we have, biscuits. And they were like, and so they was like, well, can you get him some toast? And the only thing we had was we had the Frisco burger, which was on sourdough.
Okay.
And so we toasted some sourdough and then took it back to Randy. And he was like, oh, okay, sourdough toast. We're cool with that. Even though it's thick as hell, though. It's thick ass bread. But yeah, it was like sausage. Yeah, some sausage and eggs and, some, cup of coffee and all that, bringing him his, but he, they were like, hey, don't talk to Randy. Apparently his manager had talked to him. They didn't want everybody just be like bothering him and stuff. They were like, hey, don't talk to him. But at the end, Randy has agreed to take pictures with all of you and sign autographs. And I was into rap music, but I knew who Randy Travis was.
Yeah.
And so but one of my managers, her name was June, and she had all kind of shit she brought up. She calling her daughter to bring up shit to sign and stuff. It was crazy. They brought her she had like her grandbaby's like 3 years old, 2.5 or whatever. So her daughter came by. She's like, okay, he said around 5:30 he's gonna take pictures and stuff. And so came and she had like a Randy Travis t-shirt, and she had like a poster and some kind of album, and she wanted him to sign all this stuff. And then he took, shook everybody's hand. He came in, and I was standing right there by the cubby when he walked in. So I was the first person. He said, hi, I'm Randy Travis. And all of a sudden, and I had all this shit I had planned to say, and I was tongue-tied. I couldn't even talk. I was like, and I couldn't talk to him. And it was just like, but it was really funny though, because I was like, that was Randy Travis. Okay. And he, like I said, he came up to like hear him, and he wasn't really that tall. Yeah. I was taller than him, and he had his boots on and stuff. And but he was really nice. Really, really nice guy. And like I said, shook everybody's hands. And then they were like, all right, we're going to take a couple pictures, and then he's got to go. And it's like, so we took group shots. He signed some stuff. He did sign, he signed June's little posters and signed her t-shirt and held her grandbaby. She was tickled to death. He holding the grandbaby up and all this, so I was like, oh man. So, and then, like I said, we all got in a group shot. And it was so bad because the lighting is terrible. I see that shot, and it's just literally, this is what you see of me. I'm over, I'm over. You can see my head and my glasses. Like I've got my hat bill on, and all you see is a little bit of the reflection from my glasses.
Oh no,
that was it. It was like I'm there, but it's just like big black shadow with a reflection from the flash of the camera coming off of it. And the thing, yeah. I'll have to, because now they've got like computer enhancement and stuff. I've still got that photo. I was thinking about having it scanned and enhanced. But I was only like 18 when that happened. It was so funny. But I was just like, it's so crazy when I showed that picture. I was like, you can't. They was like, that's you? And it was like, yeah, it's just a black shadow with glasses and a hat. And and yeah, it wasn't, because I was like, it was the sun's on my back, and you just couldn't. So it's throwing the light forward. You just really couldn't see anything. But I remember I was there, and Randy Travis met me, and so there you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, it was a nice guy, and not to mention there's another show here. Well, it was here, that show Nashville with that Hayden Panettiere was on. Mm. Mm-hmm. And what's the girl, Connie Britton, is on 911. on Fox now. So they were both living in the, they had houses in the Nashville area, and there was a guy I worked with in Amazon. His wife had hooked it up where they could be extras on. They were on like 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, they were shooting something, I think around at the Ryman or something. It was one of these theaters, and he said, yeah, so basically all you do is, he said they were performing a concert and I was sitting out in the audience and stuff, and he said our episode's coming up, and he sent it to me, and I was like, I was rewinding. I said, I can't see it. He said, I'm in there. He said, I'd have to. He said, it's so quick though. He said, you just gotta see him paying out the audience. You see me for a second, and I'm out. And I was looking, I was like, I don't see you, man. I was like, it was, I don't know.
Yeah, man. Extra work is like the most thankless job in Hollywood, like next to like being a Teamster, maybe, because those guys work, like you were saying, those guys work such long hours. But extras, it's like your whole day revolves around just waiting for everyone else to do their jobs, and then you're basically a prop, and they set you up, and they're like, hey, walk from this part of the street to this part of the street, don't look in this direction, and you just have to do that like 7, 8, 10 times, and like that's your whole day.
Yeah, but it was kind of crazy. He was trying to tell me, he was like, hey, he said they're looking for more extras. Would you be interested? And I was like, I watched the show, but I don't really want to sound like you had to give up your whole damn day. Because he was like, they were making all these arrangements to go down there, and he's like, yeah, he said you're there for like 12 hours. And
right.
It was, and I was like, he said, but I think they were paying him like $150 a day though.
Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, and he was just like, yeah, he was like, yeah, you get $150, and he said they feed you. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, I don't know, man. He asked me, did I want to go? Like I said, his wife's he teaches, like I said, we all worked at Amazon together. This is but he was in his off time, he was a scuba instructor. So he taught scuba diving, and his wife was a travel agent. So it was kind of a sweet deal, because his wife could like pull a finesse and be like, oh, if you're going to be out here, they've got those big oceans, you might want to do some scuba diving. Nice. My husband, so she could finesse it, and shoot a lot of business towards her husband, to teach scuba. I mean, he was a good scuba instructor. I'm just saying, but I thought that was a really smart thing that they could do. She could book, like, oh, we're going, I got a Bahamas package. You want to do some scuba diving? I know the perfect instructor. Boom. And
that's kind of a perfect 1-2 punch.
Yeah. So he would pick up a lot of clients like that, because they were making really good money. He's got a nice big house. And I was like, and he was wearing, I was like, so why are you at Amazon? And he said, well, I don't need the money. I mean, he went to Auburn, and he got some kind of degree in graphic design, and he was telling me all this stuff. And he was just like, yeah, I could be retired if I wanted to. He was an older guy. He just had plenty of money, and raised his kids and everything. And I was just like, so what are you doing here? And he was just like, he said, I saw an ad that they were hiring. And he said, I always like Amazon. I like shopping on Amazon. Mm-hmm. So I figured I'd come. And he said, I like it here. And now he's like a manager up at Amazon. He became a facilities manager up there, where he's in charge of like when the conveyor lines and stuff break down, he has to go in there and fix them and stuff. They pay real good money for that. If the higher up you go in that kind of thing, sure. I mean, you got some of those guys making 80, 100 grand a year, so he's making nice money. So, but like I said, he has that. He's got his home, and he does his scuba diving on the side, and I was just like, man, he never missed any work. And I was like, dude, I miss as many days as I could get, man. What are you talking about? They give you like personal time all the time. I'd be taking that shit. I was like, yeah, I'm not staying. I'm like, yo, yeah, I'll take my personal day if I can have a day off. Hey, Antonio, work's kind of slowing up. You want to go home? I sure do. Let me go home, because I took advantage of it, because when the holidays come, they not letting you out of there. They're going to work you 12 hours every day. You're gonna work 60 hours a week, especially during like right after Black Friday. They own you. They own you until 2 days before Christmas.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I did that for almost 7 years.
Oh wow.
And yeah, You'd have to do that. Yeah, I did that for almost 7 years working at Amazon, and I was just like I said, right? I knew Thanksgiving would come, Black Friday, they own you after that. I was like, oh boy. And I mean, I would be so tired. I'd walk out in the parking lot and get in my car, and I'd be trying to crank my car up because it's wintertime all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, I'd be sleeping. I had somebody come knocking on the window. It was like, hey, man, I let my car run for like 3 hours while I was in there sleeping, trying to warm my car up. All I was doing, I mean, you get some nice checks because they give you bonuses and everything for not missing any work. But I'm trying to tell you, bro, you get home and all you would do, you get home, sleep for a few hours, get back up and have to go to work, get home, do the same. I mean, that was the whole existence. I barely, let me get a shower. Okay, go back to work. Okay, let me go home. That was the existence during that whole time. And I got to be honest, I don't miss that.
Well, no, man.
It was.
You're doing what you should be doing now.
Thank the Lord.
Yep.
Praise Caesar.
I know.
The human sunbeam shined his light upon me, and
he did.
And so I'm very, very happy. And that's another thing we announced. He's doing a cover for Way of the Gun. Yay!
I saw, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I had asked him a while back, and I was like, "Hey, can I announce?" He said, "Go for it." And I texted him. I was like, "Hey, can I tell about you doing the cover?" He said, "Yeah, go for it." And I was like, "Yes." Boom. So yeah, it's like I'm very happy about that. I mean, like I said, we got it's almost done. Almost done with the book. Life is good, man. I can't complain about anything. Life is beautiful.
That's great, man.
Yeah, man. I was like, yeah, and that's why I'm, I like this. I like talking to independent comic creators like yourself. And
yeah, man. Every time I get a chance to talk with you, it's always enjoyable. Like I love conversations, and I love conversations that just like kind of twist and wind and become this like crazy organic thing that like you don't even know where you started by the time you get to the end.
Well, that's the thing, it's like I don't know if I so much do interviews. I just have conversations. That's because I've had people say, "So when you like talk to like Jeff Smith," and I was like, I don't. They were like, "What kind of questions did you have prepared?" And I was like, "I didn't have questions prepared. I just want to have a conversation."
Yeah, exactly.
And it just led where it led, and I thought it led to some really cool places, So
it did, man. It did.
Yeah. So that's what it was. So I enjoyed that. It's like I didn't have like 20 questions laid out for Steve Englehart. I know his work. I'm a fan, so I was just like, so when you did this, what was happening here? Okay, and then just let him tell. And he was like, I'm probably talking too long. No, keep talking. Let me know. I want this. This is the thing. I want that. I want that information that I wouldn't be able to get just from reading a print interview or something. I'm actually talking to you, and this is, that's beautiful. That's I don't know. I thought it was fun. So
yeah, it's kind of like back when Craig Ferguson had his talk show, and like he'd start every interview by just tearing up the questions.
It was like I don't know why they took him off the air. I don't know, maybe it was a ratings thing or whatever, but I actually thought he was really funny. I used to watch him on Drew Carey. And that's why I used to watch. He was the boss on the Drew Carey show, and I thought he was hilarious. And then when I saw that he was, he was taking over that spot, because I think it was Craig Kilborn.
Yeah,
was the original, and yeah, he was the one that took over from what was the guy, Tom, whatever his name. He had the Tomorrow Show. Yeah, he had the Tomorrow Show way back in the day, and then he was on CNBC for about a decade. And then
Tom Bergeron?
I don't know. That's the guy that hosts Hollywood Squares now. So.
Right, and then he his career started on FX when FX first launched.
Yeah, that's why I knew Tom Bergeron from FX, and then also Dancing with Stars. So, but I can't remember but yeah, it's Tom. He used to get. I'm trying to remember the guy that was on what was that show? The guy had been on the Little Rascals, and then they said he had maybe had something to do with taking his wife out or whatever. And
right.
He had been one on the R Gang, and then he was on Beretta. He was on Beretta. That's him. He was the guy from Beretta, and him and Tom were friends. And so he made a couple of appearances on that. And Robert, something I can't remember that guy. He would smoke. That was one. And you. That's another thing.
And he was in Lost Highway, right?
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because he's been in a couple. But I mean, one of the things about those old interviews on his show, it's one of the few places now, especially you rarely see anybody smoking on television anymore. And that was I remember he used to always smoke. He would smoke, and that's one thing I noticed Dave Chappelle did. I watched Dave Chappelle. I went to see Dave Chappelle at the Ryman, and Dave Chappelle probably smoked at least 10 cigarettes while he was doing his set.
Yeah, he just keeps going, man.
Yeah, and he talks, but it's like I don't know if he was really smoking. He'd take a drag and he would talk, and by the time he get through telling the story, the whole cigarette, so it's time for him to light up another one. So it's like he got a drag off of it or whatever, and then he talks, and by the time the ashes just burn, and then And
I think it's just like a psychosomatic thing, man. I think it just helps keep him focused.
But it was crazy because I was telling my buddy, I was like, damn, how many damn cigarettes did that dude light up? Because it was crazy. Dave just kept light. And then I noticed on the Sticks and Stones interview that the new he had like a vape, if I'm not mistaken. He was using a vape. But I know a lot of people they're using vapes now because you can't smoke in a lot of places now.
Right.
Yeah, but that was like when we were at the Ryman though, Dave Chappelle was firing them up. This was like was it like 2013 or so. And he was doing a tour, and it was funny. I had a great time when I saw him there. But the Ryman is tiny. It only held like about 3,000 people. It's tiny. Wow. Yeah, it was. And the seats, I'm way too fat to be sitting in those seats. I was like this. And my friend was a big dude too. And I thought I was big. There was a dude that was like two of me, and he was like 2 rows up, and people were complaining because he was so big that there was no way in hell he could fit in the seat. And the dude next to him was like, "Hey, this guy's all over me, man. What?" And it was crazy. And I was looking, and she was like, "Well, the woman was coming around, and because they were making sure they were being very." Dave has this thing about not using cell phones and stuff. And I've noticed that there's a couple of companies now where they make these bags or whatever, and you're supposed to stick your cell phone in the bag while the show's on. And
right, so you can't make any calls.
Yeah. And my buddy got a text on his phone. And he had it on vibrate. He pulled his phone out. And I'm telling you, when he pulled his phone out, the security swarmed on him so quick. It was crazy. And he was like, I am. He said, you get no phones. He said, you get one warning. After that, you have to go. And they were not joking.
Like that's why in Sticks and Stones, when like he gets interrupted by the dude on the phone, I'm like, what is that guy even doing with the phone, man?
Yeah, because like I said, he said, and I remember one special I saw, he said, that's why I be taking y'all's phones.
Right, yeah.
I started laughing because I knew that because I'm telling you, when we were going in, they were scanning everybody, they put the bracelet on you, boop, 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 and all that kind of stuff, cash your ticket, put this bracelet on, boop, boop, and make sure you'd have been through so you can get in and out. And they would let you know, do you have a cell phone on you? And I go, yes. They said, you can't have that on. You need to. I turned it off right then. I was like, okay. And my buddy turned his. He said he turned his off, but he didn't turn it off. He just turned it on vibrate. And like I said, when he picked his phone up to check who was texting him, I'm telling you, they swarmed on him so quick. And Dave did 3 shows. I went. He did 3 shows, and he did 2 shows on Monday and 1 show on Tuesday. So, and they all 3 sold out. So we went to the second Monday show because I asked my buddy, I said, which show you want to go to? He was like, I said, they got the 2 on Monday and then they got the other one on Tuesday. He was like, well, I'm off on Monday. He said, do the later one and we'll go to the late show and then we can go get something to eat. I was like, all right, bet. So I bought the tickets on Ticketmaster, and then we rolled up in there, but apparently there was a little young girl, little blonde girl. She got kicked out of the show in the first show.
Okay.
She was in there secretly texting and trying to take photos or something. And they caught her, and they gave her the warning, and then apparently she pulled her phone out again. And Dave was in the middle of his set. He told the story while we were on the stage. While it was during our show, he said, I'm just letting y'all know. He said, we are very serious about the phone thing. He said, the little white girl, he said, she thought I was joking. And then the security walked her out and she broke down and crying and stuff. Because it's like they walk you out and you don't get your money back. The ticket is non-refundable. So she got thrown out. Yeah, she got thrown out because she pulled her phone out. They, like I said, they gave her a warning, and then she tried to be slick again and like stream it on Facebook or something, and they caught her and they threw her out, man. It was a wrap. So she got thrown, and them tickets was $80 a pop, man.
That's an expensive mistake, young lady.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Everybody's got their phones, man. It's all social media. So like I said, man, but I had the show was funny though. I had a really good time. I definitely, because I had two choices. They had a Kevin Hart show coming to the Bridgestone. That's where the Predators play here. And they had Dave Chappelle at the Ryman. And so I asked my boy, I said, you want to either go to see Kevin Hart or you want to go see Dave Chappelle? Because I said, I don't got the money to do both. And he was like, well, he said, I've been wanting to see Dave Chappelle since Chappelle's show. Yeah. And we went to see Dave Chappelle, and it was like a week after that guy in Texas had thrown a banana peel at him. He told that story on the Netflix special because it's the same story he told us where that guy had brought the banana peel to the show, and then I guess he slipped it in, and he waited till Dave, and the guy threw the banana peel at him on the show. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, so those first Netflix specials is the material that I heard. Because nice. I watched so that when he did those particularly the one that was taped there, like Dave Chappelle in Austin or whatever, that's the special he did. He had just taped that the Saturday about maybe 6 days before he came to Nashville. So he had because I looked on his tour dates and he had been in Austin. He taped the special then. It was supposed to go to HBO, and then I guess the money, they decided they didn't want it. And that special was supposed to go to HBO, and he had that's why he had taped the Austin show. And then they decided that they didn't want to do that, and they did the Netflix deal. So that special I said, what happened to that show? Because there was even reporters saying that they taped the show. So they taped it, and then he came to Nashville and did that show. And he told the story about the guy throwing the banana peel at him, and they arrested him. That guy got arrested for throwing the banana. Yeah, I was like, that was crazy. I was like, why would you pay? Because because that was the thing. I was like, why would you spend the money? And like I said, his tickets, the $80 in the Nashville area, in like Los Angeles and New York and stuff, those tickets were like $150. It wasn't right. And some of them were bigger venues. But we paid $80 a pop to get in there. So if I'm giving Ticketmaster $80, I'm not bringing nothing to throw at the artist or whatever, And I mean, they were decked out with security. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude, hecklers in general, I just don't understand. It's like, what is it you think you're accomplishing? Like, what is the impact you think you're making on this event? I just don't get that mindset in people.
Well, it's like when you pay to go to like a sporting event, and then you decide, let me rush on the court, let me do this.
I'm gonna streak.
And I mean, the funny thing is they do prosecute you for that. I still remember I was watching the pay-per-view. What was it? Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe. And the guy parachuted in. You remember when they were fighting? Yeah. Yes. And that guy got his ass whooped too. The security was on him. That guy got the brakes beat off of him. Because
understandably, man.
Yeah, it was crazy because Riddick, that was a strange fight because I thought Riddick was gonna win that, and then Evander Holyfield. Yeah, it was a strange fight because you see Evander Holyfield. He sees the guy come down and he stops fighting. And Riddick is like, "Wait a minute, why isn't he defending this?" He didn't realize what was going on. And then he thought Evander was trying to trick him or something. And then he realized, he started hearing the crowd and everybody was going crazy.
Right.
And they realized this nut had parachuted into the thing. Yeah, it was. That was it's strange when you. Now I'm gonna tell you something else I watched. I was watching pay-per-view when Owen Hart died on that pay-per-view. I don't know if you know who that is, the wrestler.
I do. Like, I'm not a big wrestling or sports dude, but I know the whole Owen Hart died. Yeah.
Yeah, he was coming in on the wire.
Yeah.
And it was on a little tape delay, but they clearly were not expecting the rope to,
of course.
Yeah, and then they went on with the show, which was strange. He comes in like, boom, and everyone's like, and then they rush in with the paramedics. They try to get him, they put him up on the table and push him out of there, and then call the ambulance and everything. They said he pretty much died on the way to the hospital and everything.
Yeah,
I was just like, it was. But I was actually watching the pay-per-view when that happened.
Wow.
It was, that was bad. And they just went on. Even after they went on with the rest of the matches, it was like, okay.
There are all these weird little pockets in live television, like that stuff. Janet with the exposed boobie.
I watched that. I had that on. I was at work, and then I taped it, and then when I got home, I watched it, and I did not realize. That thing crazy. They said it was like one of the more people, especially they can track things with like what TiVo or whatever you DVR, and they said more people went to that part and rewound it. It was like the rest of the Super Bowl got a good number, but that particular, it was a huge spike. Everybody was like, let me run that back. And then every now and again, I've seen that pop up on YouTube a few times, and then like somebody will report it and they'll take the clip down. It's like, but I've said that was funny, because I'm gonna have you, Nick, but it is some, and he pulls the thing, and it's like, and I go, oh my god, oh no, oh my god, oh. What is that? And then I thought I was imagining it, and I run it back, and I was like, then all of a sudden you like running it in slow motion. I was like, that's actually her. Oh, and then you see she had like a nipple piercing.
Right. It was like a circular thing around it.
It was a sun. She had some kind of sun stud in there. It was supposed to be like the sun. And it was like a star. And there was a guy, and I gotta salute this guy. He set up an Etsy store. I'm not joking.
Of course,
I was like, I respected his hustling. And I was like, this dude's a hustler, man. He was selling zoomed in photos of Janet Jackson's dude from the Super Bowl, and people were buying them.
That's beautiful. That's art.
I was he's selling it in a frame, and people were going to this site and paying him for the zoomed in. Because I was like, I said, wait a minute, can he do that? But he was doing it. I thought that was smart, man. I was like, hey, I respected the hustle, because I was like, who else would have thought to do something like that, to take the photo of her zoomed in breast and sell a framed copy of it?
Yeah, I mean, he'll do it until he gets that cease and desist.
Yeah, exactly. But before they shut him down, he sold a bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he was selling for like $30 a pop, and people were buying. And I was like, okay. But I can't even remember who was playing that game. I think it was the Patriots and the Rams, and the Patriots won that game, if I'm not mistaken. So but I remember that. Yeah, that was beautiful. But but you think about stuff like that sometimes. I go, oh man. But man, this has been great. I've enjoyed talking to you, Mike.
Same here, Antonio. It's always a good time, man.
Yes, sir. And guys, if you would be so inclined to, especially to the future viewers that will come and watch this, please look in the description and check out The Gods Fear Me. You know, you can check that out. And the book is very reasonably priced. If you have a few shekels that you could shower Mr. Murphy with, he would very, very much appreciate your support, I am sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, tell them if they want to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at chibi_Mike. And my YouTube channel is The Chibi Mike, all one word.
Oh, okay. The Chibi. So that's no Instagram. You're not doing it for the gram, none of that.
Oh man, I got an Instagram, but like it's neglected, man. Like I'm trying to figure out what the I don't get Instagram, man. Like I've been hustling with Instagram for like 5 years now, and I've got like maybe 100-something followers, and then you see like these people posting up food pics and they have like 2 million. I'm like, I don't get it, dude.
I got almost 12,000. I got almost 12,000 just posting other people's artwork on there.
There you go.
It's so funny. But hey, I'll take it. I'm trying to get to 13. Can I get to 13? But again, guys, my thanks to Mike Murphy for joining me here this afternoon. This was a fantastic, fun conversation. I enjoyed it. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up. And if you guys want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and right here on this YouTube channel everywhere is at Akari Press. And if you type in akaripress.com, it will take you directly to my Indiegogo campaign for my comic book series brand with the phenomenal Kanan White. We're on Teespring. We're on Amazon.com. The links to those are in the description. The gods fear me. I'm out.
Later.